It was pretty hectic. We were firing away at everything that moved at the sky. The sky was full of shrapnel, uh, explosions, there were bombs going off, everything. We heard a big explosion over the, on our starboard side, and looked over, and the Arizona had blown up. I guess her forward magazine blew, and she had a tripod mast rotor, and it had a gun nest up on top of the mast. You could see those guys up on top trying to fire their gun. They was burning up because flames coming up from all that oil burners. I saw them try to jump, but they couldn't make it. It's a 105-foot beam on that ship, and no way they could jump. They just jumped out into the flames and the burning oil. A lot of guys burned up right on their guns there. Just a few minutes later, we had another explosion over in the Navy Yard. We found out later it was the Shaw. She's on the Marine Railway up out of the water. Her forward magazine blew up, and blew 120 feet of her bow off. A lot of guys killed there. And the Pennsylvania was in dry dock. The Castle and Downs were ahead of her in the same dry dock. Pennsylvania got a bomb aft, didn't do much damage, but the Castle and Downs were both so shredded with holes that when they flooded the dry dock, they just sat on the bottom. We were pretty well damaged, so we were taking a pretty bad list, and we started counter flooding to try to keep the ship on an even keel. We kept getting lower and lower in the water. We got so desperate we started throwing all the weights we could off the top side. We threw over the boat skids, davits, the lifelines and the stanchions, the catapults, the torpedoes, the torpedo tubes, everything that had any weight to it, we threw it off. And finally later on, the yard tug came over and brought a couple of pontoons over, and we passed lines from the pontoons over the keys and passed a wire rope, 2-inch rope lines across to keep the ship from sinking all the way. We still settled down in the mud. We didn't sink all the way down. But we managed to keep her from sinking all the way down. So we kept our main deck above water anyway. The cooks had already started dinner. For Sunday dinner, they had chicken in the pots, and those big steam pots aboard. And all the power was off, so it was hot weather. So you can imagine what happened after about 3 or 4 hours. That chicken started stinking. Nothing smells worse than a rotten chicken. So finally, one of the hospital ships sent over some coffee and sandwiches and to check to see if any more were wounded. And I had sent one of my boat crews out to pick up bodies. I had to stay on the guns, but I sent one of my crews out to pick up bodies. There were bodies all over the bay there. We'd pick them up, and they'd tow them to Hialeah Landing and stack them up over there, and then come back and get another load. They was coming back one time after taking a load over, and they passed the Utah. The old battleship was capsized astern of us. And they heard something tapping in there, and they come up and told the OD. And OD said, well, we'll send a burner back. So they sent a burner back, and they burned a plate off the bottom of the Utah, and there's a guy standing in the double bottoms up about waist deep in water and oil. We got him out, and he plunged into the drink and swum to shore to Ford Island. And at that time, we didn't know what happened. Later on, we found out what happened to the guy. There's so many things happened that day that it's hard to remember everything. I can just give you a brief, just skim over the things that happened that day. When those bomber planes just start peeling off and coming down, the machine guns going, and you can imagine how hard it is to stand up there. And of course, you got splinter shields and so forth, but every round looked like it's come right at you, you know. So it's hard to stand up there, but you just stand up and do the best you can, firing back at them. We was firing away at one plane, and evidently a shell must have hit it right head on because it just evaporated. We just felt like rain coming on us. Just absolutely everything just sprayed all over us. And that just disappeared altogether. It was coming right straight. It looked like it was coming straight at us. Now these planes that were strafing, evidently they were pulling out of their dive too quick because they didn't come down on deck with their machine gun fire. They splintered their stacks. They evidently was pulling out, and the machine guns, the bullets was just riddled our stacks. Smokes on the plane. It was a heck of a thing. You wonder how in the hell I could stand up there. But you just do what you're supposed to do, and that's all you can do. You fire back the best you can. Well, eventually they got us up and shipped us over to the Navy Yard there in Pearl, and went to dry dock. Went into the same dry dock that the Pennsylvania had been in when she got out. The Castle and Downs were still in there. They just stayed on the bottom when they flooded for us in there. But they patched us up, and we came back to the States. We escorted some ships back to San Francisco, and went into the Maryland Navy Yard there, got repairs, and they assigned us to escort duty to the South Pacific. We'd convoy ships down with troops, supplies, and then we'd bring the ships back and escort them back with the wounded and so forth, back into San Francisco. Eventually, after a while, we'd leave them off, the ones that were badly wounded, we'd leave them off at the hospital there in Honolulu because it was closer for them to get medical attention. They were on this duty for quite a while, and they decided that we better head for the North Pacific. We went up to the Aleutian Islands, and we were home based in Dutch Harbor. And while we were up there, we bombarded Kiska and Attu Islands. We bombarded the Japanese home islands. We were the first U.S. ship to bombard the home islands. We had bad gunfire. We bombed an airfield down there, bombarded it. We had the Raleigh, the Richmond, Salt Lake City, and 10 new destroyers. We really blasted that airfield down there. We came back, and eventually we come back to the States and got some more repairs and got new condenser tube and so forth. And we headed down south. We heard there'd been some Japanese movement down along the west coast of South America. So we went down there and started cruising down there. We went down to Callao, Peru, and made liberty there and patrolled outside the port there. And eventually went on down to Valparaiso, Chile, cruising along the west coast of South America. And while I was down there, I made chief, advanced in rate to chief, and that made 3 chief boatswains on the ship. They only needed 2, so got back up to Panama at the Canal Zone. They transferred me off, and I thought I was headed for the South Pacific, but they assigned me to a tug up there. Well, the first they assigned me to a picket boat. We had a 48-foot picket boat with we had depth charges, smoke screen, 50-caliber machine gun, and we all had sidearms and Tommy guns. And we'd go out and patrol with, we carried a Panamanian custom inspector and a Panamanian policeman with us all the time. We could stop all the ships coming in and out of Panama itself, the Panama City. That's over from the canal. We stopped a lot of banana boats and find a lot of stowaways and people like that. Brought them back and turned them over to Army G2. Eventually, they transferred me off there and gave me a tug. So I skippered a tug down until the war was over. I was bringing ships through the locks from Gatun Lake on through the Balboa side. And had an old YTL. Helped put the Essex alongside when she came through the ditch. Remember when the Essex came through, she knocked all the lamp poles over because when they let the water out, like her flight deck come back and hit the lamp poles alongside the ditch, knocked the lamp poles over. Yeah, eventually the war was over. I had enough points to get out, so I decided I was going to come home. So I had a chance to stay down there, but I didn't have sense enough to stay. I come to Akron and got a job at Goodrich. I got back here while I signed up in the Naval Reserve. So I stayed in reserves, and I'd go on, well, first we started out, we'd go to once a week training, one night a week, and then eventually one weekend a month training, and then go 2 weeks active duty for training each year, so each calendar year. So I stayed in there, and eventually I got laid off. I had 18 years service at Goodrich. I got laid off, and it was during Vietnam, so I volunteered to go back on active duty. So they took me back and they assigned me to recruiting duty here in Akron. So I did 4 years recruiting. I recruited over 600 guys for the Navy during that time. Went back to Goodrich, finished out my time. I had 34 years service when I retired from Goodrich. And all my Navy time counted too for retirement purposes, so helped me out when it comes time to retirement. So eventually comes the time that they said, well, when you're 60 years old, you got to leave. Well, I was getting up there pretty close, so when I was 59 and a half, I decided, well, it's time to hang it up. So I retired from the Navy, and about a few months later, I retired from Goodrich, 34 years service. And since that time, I've just sitting back in the rocking chair, drawing my Navy pension, my Goodrich pension, Social Security, and I haven't done a lick of work since, well, for the last 20 years. I retired in 1980. I'm still sitting here waiting for my ship to come in.